Hi, folks. My name is Dave Dryden. I'm an old guy, and I did have a career in the NHL and the WHA going back many years ago with the Rangers and Chicago and Buffalo and the Chicago Cougars and the Edmonton Oilers. And I have enjoyed my time here with I Only Touch Greatness podcast.
Looking for the most beers on tap, great steaks, great staff? Head over to the John B. Pub.
We got the best beers, steaks, chicken wings, nachos in town. Come see us at the John B. Pub.
The John B. Pub, the best bar in town. Come sign up for our football pool. Say Hayes sent you.
The #1 sports podcast in Vancouver with Ryan Hayes and Big Mike.
Ryan Hayes and Big Mike. I Only Touch Greatness podcast.
Dave Dryden was always regarded as a thinking man's goalie. He combined an impressive career in the WHA and National Hockey League from 1966 through 1980. Dryden grew up in Etobicoke and began minor hockey at the age of 12. His natural talents were recognized quickly as he progressed to Junior A hockey, helping St. Michael's capture the Memorial Cup in 1961. An injury to Rangers goalie Gump Worsley at Maple Leaf Gardens brought 20-year-old Dryden out of the stands into his first professional hockey game. 5 years later, Dryden joined the professional ranks full-time with the Chicago Blackhawks organization. His move to the Buffalo Sabres in 1970 pitted Dryden against his younger brother Ken, a memorable moment for both goalies and fans alike. Dave Dryden later enjoyed success with the Edmonton Oilers, where he claimed most valuable player honors during the team's last WHA season, denying Wayne Gretzky of the honor for the first time in the Great
Only one other team was undefeated in the NHL, and Buffalo visited the Forum to face the unbeaten Montreal Canadiens 3 days later. And the Dryden stopped the shooters the rest of the way for the tie, which kept each team's record intact.
Oh, that's for sure.
Now, you guys,
Absolutely.
a lot of sports memorabilia there. Holy smokes. So what's the focus? Oh, a lot of the hockey stuff. Oh, you got Besser's sweater back there.
I got, and Pedersen right here and Besser behind me and a little Sedin shrine beside that. And then I basically do just Canuck collection, and Mike kind of collects everybody.
I'm a huge sports collector, and mostly hockey, any age range. I love it all. I grew up with it. My dad used to own a sports card store, so I grew up with it.
Wow. Yeah, it is kind of neat, eh? And it keeps on evolving in different directions, and teams go up and down. It just makes it kind of interesting.
It does.
And it's almost like the circle of, it circles back every 20 years. There's like a cycle, like it goes back just like music does, and sports cards are coming back, and then vinyls are coming back.
Yeah, I am curious to see what happens to professional sports after the COVID thing works itself through.
Yeah, me too.
You know, what changes take place. They'll be interesting and they'll be exciting and different probably.
And for me as a season ticket holder and Mike a many game goer as well, we want to know what the situation is going to be inside the arena. Are we going to be allowed to sit close to each other, or even next to each other, or are we doing full stadiums, or just?
Yeah, being a fan is going to be quite different. You know, it could be very different.
Yeah,
it will. And you're still in Ontario, right?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Okay. So yeah, we got it kind of under control in Canada, I guess. We're slowly getting better here. So hopefully we're moved on from this soon.
Well, I think, but certainly the different provinces, each province is going at it differently. And, you just got to bide your time and keep on going. That's all.
Yeah. We'll get started here. We're just going to ask you a bunch of questions about hockey and your career. Born in Hamilton, Ontario. Can you give us a little story about childhood and growing up with Ken?
Well, there's not really. I mean, yep, born in Hamilton just during the war years, and Dad was overseas. And when when Dad came back, then I was an only child at the time, and then 6 years after I was born, Ken was born, and then another 4 years after that, my sister Judy was born, and we lived in Hamilton. Oh, goodness. For about 6 years, and then moved on to Toronto. And then Toronto became our family home, sort of a thing. So we do identify more, I think, with Toronto than Hamilton.
Okay. And then after your junior career, well, actually during your junior career, I believe there's a good story, and you were sitting in the stands watching a game, and Gump Worsley went down, and you were the emergency call-up. Was that correct?
Yeah, back in those days, the NHL teams just carried one goaltender, and it was the responsibility of the home team to provide in our case, it was a junior goaltender, to be in the stands just in case something happened. Now, the Leafs always had a practice goaltender that they used normally anyway. So if something had happened to, say, Johnny Bower, they had somebody there, but a visiting team didn't. So I was just simply sitting in the stands. The Rangers were playing, and Gump got hurt right at the end of the first period. And I went down. I was playing for the Toronto Marlboros at the time. We had a dressing room right at Maple Leaf Gardens. So I just went in my dressing room, put the stuff on, went out, got Gump's sweater, and played the game.
That's awesome. You never see that nowadays.
No, not a chance.
No, I mean, it really was exciting, eh? And that was the time when on the Saturday night, hockey night in Canada didn't come on at the start of the game. It came on at 9 o'clock, kind of a thing, just into the second period. And I know for friends of mine and everything else, they all of a sudden turned the game on, and son of a gun, I was playing. So it was just that weird.
That's like the modern day that goalie that came in for Toronto last year, Ayers, right?
That's right.
Yeah, David Ayers. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it really is a neat experience, and you don't have anything to lose, right? I mean, there you are, and the Ranger guys were really neat, and I had practiced a couple of times with the Leafs just because, as a Marley goaltender, we had practice time at Maple Leaf Gardens, and on that basis, there had been a couple of times when Johnny Bower was sick, and they just wanted a goalie out there for practice, so I'd gone out. So I did know a couple of the Leafs, sort of a thing, but certainly didn't know any of the Rangers or anything like that.
And then you ended up playing a bit of a career there with the Chicago Blackhawks. What was it like playing in that arena?
Oh, that was a neat place to play. I mean, my career was different than most because after that game that I played with the Rangers, I mean, I was teaching school at the time. And so it just landed up that, I was back teaching school, but I was playing senior hockey. And the following year, one of the teams in Buffalo, they called them the Buffalo Bisons, I think at the time, that was in the American League, they had Eddie Chadwick as a goaltender, and he got hurt. And I just got a call on a Friday night saying, Eddie is hurt. Can you come down and play a game for us? And since it was a weekend, I could because I was teaching, but what the heck? And I went and played a game in Buffalo, and it just so happened that they were a farm team of Chicago. And after a couple of games like this, Chicago offered me a contract. So the next year I landed up turning pro. So it wasn't a step by step by step kind of a thing. It was all over the place.
Can you take me back to your first NHL win, if you can remember? And do you still have the puck?
Holy jeez. My first NHL win would have been, I'm not sure. No, I don't think I do have one from the first game. I know in my collection here, I've got my first NHL shutout that I got with the Blackhawks. That was playing against the Oakland Seals. I'm not sure that I don't think I've got any record of the first game I won with Chicago.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite piece of sports memorabilia?
Sorry?
Do you have a favorite piece of sports memorabilia?
Not that much. I mean, you'll end up with scrapbooks and things like that, and a few things. I'm not really a collector. So a lot of the guys I played hockey with were real collectors, not only of their own stuff, but hockey stuff in general. And I've got a few things, but not that many.
Okay. And then, you were saying you went to then you ended up playing for the Buffalo Sabres there for a bit, and then to the WHA Chicago Cougars. I love those uniforms, by the way, and your mask. That was sweet.
Well, that was a different time in hockey, right? When you've got the Outlaw League and you've got a whole different dynamic there. But the Chicago Cougars, I got with the Cougars because of a friend that I had with the Chicago Blackhawks, and that was Patty Stapleton. And
okay.
Patty and I were good friends. And when he left Chicago, the Hawks, to go with the Cougars, he got in touch with me and said, was I interested in joining him there? And we had an amazingly crazy year with the Cougars, but the WHA was really good in that the guys, I'd signed a contract that was guaranteed by the league. And so when the Cougars folded, the league said, okay, where do you want to go within the league? And Edmonton was interested, and I thought, well, yeah, that'd be a good place to go. So we went from Chicago to Edmonton.
Yeah, and that's where you played with our guest from last night, Dave Hunter, and also young and skinny Wayne Gretzky, I believe, as well.
Yeah. Now, so you were talking to Davey, were you?
Yeah,
we were. Yeah, he was on last night with us.
How is he doing?
He's doing well. He's doing his oil field stuff, and he's living life.
Oh, that's good. He's a really good guy, and he was such a good, hardworking hockey player. You could count on him 100% all the time.
1977, you created the first mask with a cage, fiberglass. It's in the Hall of Fame still. And you were the first to wear it as well. How did you come up with the concept?
Well, that's interesting. Hang on for 1 second here.
All right. Dude, but the Orlov gave a 4-minute. They just get Orlov's Washington's on the power play right here. Orlov levels. Okay, what do we got there?
No, if you're talking mass, it's funny because I was just cleaning out some stuff the other day, and I had these these masks sort of hidden away. I don't like to think of anybody. I don't want to lose these son of a guns because they've been around so long. But that's the first mask I ever wore.
Oh, wow.
That was while I was playing senior hockey before I turned pro. And then I decided that I was going to make my own masks. And so I went to this one that I made, and I wore that in senior hockey and the start of my pro career. Then I made another mask that was a little bit smaller, but fit me really good. I gave that away to somebody the other day. And then I went to this mask, and this is the one. I mean, you can't see it inside, I suppose, but there's a small mask, and then I made it into a bigger one by adding extra pieces on it. And this all happened when they were allowing the huge hook on the stick.
Oh, yeah.
And when that was legal, we were getting hit everywhere on the head. So I made it bigger. So I just had, this is the mask I wore when I was with the Sabres and the Oilers. And then it was the thing that I got hit a couple of times around the eye. And it was like, geez, you know, I then by that time I was in my 30s, and it was, you know, don't want to land up losing an eye or something at this stage. So I just decided that while I like this, why not build a cage on top of it and change it? Like Tony O had added some wires onto his, but I didn't see the logic in having that right tight against my face. A lot of the European goalies were wearing the cage. So the thought was, okay, can we put the cage with this and come up with something different? And I got a guy, Greg Harrison, here in Toronto, who was working with Cooper Sporting Goods to work with me on it. And he put it all together, and it really worked well. And, you know, you start wearing something like that, and then other goalies are coming up to you, even during warm-up, and saying, what the Sam hell are you wearing there? And they're thinking, geez. And it really was neat. I mean, I got hit right in the mush a couple of times with shots with that thing, and it didn't bother me at all. And so, you know, guys just picked up on it. And Greg Harrison got a lot of orders for his masks. And then they started mass producing that type of mask. It's been pretty successful. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's still in the Hall of Fame, which is pretty cool. 1977, I believe.
Well, yeah, it was 77 or 78 when I started to wear it. And, no, the concept has worked well, you know, and my career spanned the era when goalies were considered a chicken if they wore a mask, to the point of where if you weren't wearing a mask, you were stupid. So it just made a big flip in those number of years. And it was interesting how general managers often said to me, you're more valuable than you used to be, because you're not going to get hurt as much. And some guy who says, no, I'm not going to wear a mask, he's lost value because he can get hurt and his career may be ended. So
yeah, you're totally right. You're totally right about that. That's for sure.
Yeah. So the mask, you know, did turn out to be a really positive thing. It was kind of fun.
Holy. Okay, so other than the mask, what's the favorite invention you've ever seen during your lifetime?
Oh, I don't know. The ones that I personally was more involved with, and that all of us goalies got involved sort of the same way, is you were always trying to protect yourself and to keep your equipment lighter and I mean, fill space if you could. I mean, now the rules got in the way of filling space, but I was always just very interested in the idea that so much of hockey was based on history. It used to be done this way, so let's keep on doing it. And I was very lucky. My first year with Chicago, I was with Glenn Hall as a goalie, And Glenn was really he was a marvelous goalie, best goalie I ever played with, sort of a thing.
Mr. Goalie.
Oh, just amazing. And he was open-minded. He would sort of say, yeah, Dave, anything that we can do to make ourselves better. And I kept on saying, Glenn, our bloody pads weigh so much and our gloves weigh so much. Can we make them any lighter? And so I went to this company, Cooper Sporting Goods, at the end of my first season in Chicago, and just said, look, I want to take every bit of equipment that I've got that has leather on it, and I want to replace it with nylon. And if I replace it with nylon, it's going to be lighter. And can we make it work? And they were really good. They said, let's give it a try. And the only problem was the only nylon they could get was green. And so I had a blocker made out of green nylon. I had body pads made out of nylon. And they then found some white nylon and they made me a pair of white pads. And the league was not ready for the white pads. When I went to training camp with those white pads, everybody just laughed. Then I tried to dye them brown. And when you use brown dye on white nylon, you get purple. And so that didn't cut it. But all the stuff with the catch glove, the blocker, the arm pads and everything, the switch to nylon was perfect. It didn't absorb water. It had enough structural strength. Didn't rip. And so Cooper started making a lot of their things then out of with nylon. And then ultimately we landed up getting into synthetic pads and all the rest of it just to cut the weight down. So but this was always going on within the goaltending fraternity, that guys were trying to find ways to protect themselves better. We made changes in our skates. We did all sorts of different things to try to be safer, lighter, quicker, that kind of a thing. But I got a big kick out of that stuff.
The thing I remember the most about Cooper is they used to make these street hockey pads back in the 80s that were hard rubber plastic ones that never wore out. And that's probably why they stopped selling them, because you're never having to replace them.
Yeah, that's right. No,
they were big, hard plastic ones. I don't know if you would remember, but they were for street hockey, and they were like rubber pads, and they just never wore out. And then of course, I remember Peter Klima's helmet.
Oh yes, yeah, that's right. No, they were just the fellow who was the president of the company at the time. His name was John Cooper, and John was just so neat. You'd go in and say, John, I've got an idea. And he'd say, well, let's give it a shot and see what would happen. And really the evolution of equipment. I mean, you look at how the game is played now at the NHL level, and you see what the goalies are wearing. You also see the sticks the guys are using, the skates they're wearing. I mean, all of those things mean that the game can be so... the small muscle stuff that can be done now by players is quite amazing because of the equipment they have, And
then going back to the sticks, you're not carrying around those one pieces, those like heavy one piece ones.
That's it. And it used to be like it's funny how history impacts on that. When I first went to Chicago, and Glenn Hall was a great history guy. He used to talk about the history of things. And I remember him talking about Terry Sawchuk and saying, Terry, all of us as goalies in the 50s, let's say, we weren't wearing masks. So there was a tendency, if somebody shot high, you stiffened up. you didn't want to get hit in the head, so your head would be going up. And some of the goalies, and Sawchuk, I heard, was one of them, literally put metal on the blade of his stick to make the stick so heavy that he wouldn't lift up that way. That it was this heavy stick that kept his shoulders down so that he stayed in his crouch. And it's like, geez, you're adding weight to make yourself heavy so you can't move. And really, in effect, but that was because guys weren't wearing masks and they were trying to find ways to protect their face. So once we learned how to protect our face, you could then play the game totally different. I mean, you watch the guys now, their head stays down. And I mean, if the puck's going to hit them in the head, so what? They just take it in the head and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And you remember the whole two-piece? They had the aluminums, the really hard Easton aluminums from the 90s. The Gretzky had.
Oh, yeah. No, the equipment does keep on evolving, eh? And that is one thing that the NHL has had to really watch out for. I was hired by them back in the late 90s and early 2000 to try to put some controls on the goalie equipment because, it was getting out of hand. Stuff was getting
Snow. Yeah, you remember Gar Snow had it, right?
Yeah. There were all of these things to make you bigger, and somewhere along the line, you've got to draw the line and say, no, that's not for protection. That's actually to fill the net, and I'm sure it's the same. I mean, with the forwards and defensemen, remember they used to cut the palms out of their gloves and everything, so that they could grab other people's sticks and no one would even see them doing it that way. And
I remember Craig Ludwig with the huge shin pads so when he blocked shots.
That's right. So you do have to monitor the equipment, but it's really neat, the creative things that players and manufacturers come up with so that players can play better, and the speed of the game is unreal right now because of all of that.
Yep. And then you ended up winning MVP and best goaltender in the WHA, still holding a record, WHA record for most games played and most wins. What's it like holding a record like that?
Oh, that was just a neat year, eh? I mean, that was a year where there was all sorts of talk all year long about the fact that, would the WHA merge with the NHL? And 2 years prior to that, the NHL looked at the WHA rather scornfully, right? I mean, they didn't think the WHA was much of a challenge. But the WHA had brought over so many great Europeans and Scandinavians and Russians and, all of the different, we had some great teams in there. And so by the time we got to that last year, I mean, we had a great team in Edmonton. We had Messier, we had Gretzky, we had Kevin Lowe. We had a lot of really good players. And I mean, the Winnipeg Jets had a ton of good players too.
Yeah. Bobby Hull.
Yeah. And I mean, it was a really good league at the time. And it did make so much sense when the two of them joined that they each brought something to the table. And like Goon Hockey was not part of the WHA in its last couple of years. It had been, but then we'd pretty well wiped that one out. And the NHL still had a lot of Goon Hockey going on. But when the two merged together with the skill set of the Europeans and whatnot, it really made the hockey good. So to me, yeah, that was a very exciting year. And then to go into the next year with the Oilers in the NHL, that was exciting because right off the bat you could tell, hey, I was at 38 or 39 at the time, and I knew I wasn't going to be around, but the team was a good team and it was going to do well. And it did, it was an excellent team.
And you ended up finishing, I was going to say you ended up finishing a career in Edmonton and ended up coaching at the end of the season with Stay There. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
okay.
that just had been part of my contract that I would play as long as I felt I was doing the job, and then they wanted me to stay as a coach. So that's what I did.
And being around the game as long as you have, how often have you met Don Cherry?
Oh, haven't met Don very often.
Okay.
Just a couple of times in passing. I mean, he's a real, celebrity and a good guy. I don't agree with his philosophies a lot, or at least the ones that he
got him in trouble. Yeah, but I was just saying, I was getting along the points to. I've been a big fan of his for years, and again, just like what you just said there, I don't agree with the things he says, but the things that he's brought to hockey over the years, and I just know he's from Ontario as well. I thought maybe you might have known him.
Yeah, no, he's an entertainer, and he brings a lot of energy to hockey, sort of a thing. But some of the things he says I don't agree with.
If you could
definitely.
If you could sit down for dinner with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh, Jiggers, I wouldn't have a clue. I wouldn't have a clue. It wouldn't be. I love sports. I find that very interesting. I guess if I was looking in a direction right now, it would probably be more talking some person that had world power influence, that kind of thing,
Okay.
But I do find it interesting that when you start talking about, do you want to sit down with Obama and talk to him or some of those things, that would be very interesting, but sometimes it's more interesting to talk to see some young person that hasn't experienced life that much and has all sorts of creative ideas about the future. So I don't know. I'd have to think long and hard on that one if I only had one that I could talk to.
You're also part of the record books with Wayne Gretzky, and another part, not the best for a goaltender, but scored his first pro goal against you. That's pretty unique.
Yeah, actually Patty Stapleton, who again was the reason that I jumped to the WHA. When the Cougars didn't work out, I landed up going to Edmonton, but Patty went to Indianapolis and he became the coach general manager there. And he was the one who had Gretz. They were the ones that signed him to his first professional contract. So, the way the story went was that the Oilers, we went into Indianapolis to play a game probably in November of the season. And I phoned up Whitey when we got into town just to see how things were going. And Patty said to me, I said, you've got this new phenom, Gretzky. How's he doing? And he said, Jesus, we paid a ton of money for him and he's done nothing for us so far. I may have to send him back to junior. And so that was the end of the story. And the next night, Wayne scored a couple on me. And so when I met Wayne, when he got traded later to us in Edmonton, I could honestly say to him, kid, I kept you in the league because without me, you'd be back playing junior again. So
that's awesome.
And he is and he was a great kid, eh? Everybody liked him and very humble and just a really nice kid. But he did have trouble breaking in initially in the WHA because Wayne is a good sharer of the puck. I mean, he doesn't do it all by himself. He moves the puck around a lot, and they couldn't seem to match him up with people in Indianapolis where it was working. But once he got to Edmonton, geez, it worked out just great.
And then March 20th, 71, big day for you and your brother. Only time in history that two brothers faced off as goalies. That must have been a unique moment for you guys, and I'm sure you guys still have the jerseys from that night.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know that we have the jerseys from him that night. No, we don't really, but we have some pictures, some pictures of the night, and it was the different part of it was that Ken was not the regular goalie, and like I was the number 2 goalie in Buffalo at the time, and Ken was actually, I think, sort of the number 3 goalie in Montreal at the time. Rogie Vachon was number 1. And when we went into Montreal that Saturday night, Punch Imlach, we met the night before the game. Friday night we had a team meeting, and he said, "Dave, you're going to play." And he said, I think what's that is going to do is force Al McNeil to play your brother, because it'll just make sense to sort of do it that way. And what actually happened was that Punch put in the lineup for Buffalo just before the game, and then Al McNeil put in his lineup, and Rogie was playing. And as soon as Punch saw that, he said, "Dave, at the end of the first whistle, I'm pulling you back out of the game again, because I want to embarrass them that they didn't start Ken." And so he did. He pulled me out. And then later on in the period, Rogie got hit. He got hurt. Ken went in. So I went back in again. So it wasn't the way it had been planned, but it worked out anyway.
And when did you know Ken was going to be so special and such a great goaltender?
Oh, Ken is a great athlete. Like, you watch somebody, he was that much younger than I was, and I would see him playing and saying, "Holy smokes, he is good." He was a great baseball player, basketball player, football, hockey. He was a natural at all of these things. So I knew very well that, and he'd had a great career down at Cornell there, and they had won championships, and he had been acknowledged as a great goaltender. So I knew he was going to be good. And he was, he had a great career there in Montreal.
Absolutely. One of the best ever.
Yeah, really. And it worked out. Ken still keeps in contact with Scotty Bowman, who was his coach there, and whatnot. It was just a special time for him and for Montreal. They had great years there. Worked out well.
Mike, you go ahead. Look.
Yep. You had one and I started talking. Sorry about that.
Yeah, and then I forgot what it was.
73-74 All-Star game. What was it like playing in that game?
Oh, that was not one of my highlight moments. It was neat being selected and being there, but I must admit I didn't have a good game at all. That was one of those games that when I talked to Gary Unger afterwards, I told him that because of me, he won the car. He scored a couple of goals on me, and it was like, geez, I gave him the car. It's always a great thrill to play in those games. And no, that was not my shining moment.
Did you have any pre-game rituals or routines that you'd stick to?
No, not well. No, I did actually. There were just a lot of patterns, that you would land up having a sleep at a certain time, having a certain meal, kind of a deal. Uh, yeah, it was more in the business too that when I would get to the rink, it was just the quietness that I wanted to have. You put your right skate on before your left skate. You follow a routine, and I liked following that routine. Although sometimes I really did appreciate when, and usually you knew ahead of time when you were playing. The coach would always tell you in advance that you were playing. But when I played with Punch Imlach, Punch was unusual that way. There would be times in the morning when we'd have our pregame skate that, like when I was with Roger Crozier, that Raj and I would sort of say, well, I wonder who's playing. And, usually you could tell, and just by how the practice went in the morning. But sometimes Punch, we'd say, Punch, who's playing? Haven't made up my mind yet. And so then you'd land up being in the dressing room, all dressed and ready to go just before warm up, and Punch would come and tap you on the shoulder and say, you're going tonight. That's it. And that, I don't know, at times that helped me play really good games. So, sometimes the coach had a sense of me as a goalie, and I think as other goalies, that there were ways that he could create a pattern that might even make me play better, kind of a thing.
Yeah, you kind of always got to be ready because you don't know who's going to be starting.
Yeah, but again, at mid-afternoon, you're not sitting there sweating it because you're saying, well, I'm probably not going to play. And then all of a sudden, bang, you are. So, yeah, like some coaches really like to have it all laid out in advance, and others like to bring the surprise element in. And I mean, the surprise element can happen because what happens if your partner gets hurt and then all of a sudden you've got to go in? You've got to be ready for those kind of things.
And it must have been. Sorry, go ahead. Ryan.
What was your favorite sports movie?
Oh, I don't know. I always liked that Bull Durham, to tell you the truth. Okay. I got a kick out of that one. I don't know why that pops to mind, but I mean, Slapshot was interesting. But it was also so over the top that it was like, oh, jiggers.
Man, you guys must have been hard on your parents having two goalies. I couldn't imagine.
Well, the neat thing was that we shared an interest. My stuff got passed down to Ken, and he liked the stuff, sort of a thing. It sort of worked. I don't know if there was as much pressure on parents of goalies back then, when you're playing Pee-wee and Bantam and all of that stuff. I mean, there was always pressure to win, and I'm sure my parents felt it. I don't think they did, though. I don't think our parents looked at it that Ken and I would they would think of us only as being successful if we won. They wanted us to play sports just because we enjoyed it. And that was it. Sometimes now I watch kids and looking up in the stands when they make a mistake or something and thinking, holy geez, there's a lot of pressure there.
And
we never felt that.
They're afraid of that car ride home with Dad.
Yeah. Geez. And I mean, sports are what you get out of it, not that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And I see that. My old man was on my ass all the time back in the day when I took a stupid penalty because he was our coach. So it was, he was out those car rides home. I was not looking forward to it.
Well, sometimes it just discourages you from playing. That's all. And
Yeah.
we were always lucky that, we continued to like to play on teams and have fun with it.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
What was it like playing against Philadelphia and at their arena?
Well, that was that time, when it was goon hockey kind of a thing. No, it really, those like 73, 74, when I was in the NHL, I really, I mean, hockey was not ideal then. It really was, the more badass you were, the coach liked you, sort of a thing. And that's what my hope was when I went to the WHA, that it was going to be more a skill-oriented league. The first year or two there, it was just as bad or worse than the NHL. But then I felt it turned itself around. But going into Philadelphia was really, they just tried to intimidate you. And I do remember very well one night where, they had Selesky and, oh goodness, the other fighter.
Jack McElharty? Or are we talking before that?
No, this was before that. They had two guys that were really, really tough. And they kept on challenging Timmy Horton. And Timmy was, he was a bull of a man and so strong, but he just didn't fight. But it was so neat there. The crowd got all excited and everything. And Selesky and, that's awful. The other chap anyway challenged Timmy, and Timmy just got him in a bear hug, picked him up, threw him on the ground, and sat on him. And and it was the neatest thing I ever saw. The crowd just went down to nothing. And I loved that. Really, the Buffalo Sabres didn't get into many brawls with Philadelphia. We had a lot of big guys, Schoenfeld and King Kong, and guys that were big. But going into Philly, their whole idea was to intimidate you.
Of course. Yeah, you don't see that much nowadays, which is kind of good. It's more of a skill game nowadays.
Oh, for sure. If you can't take a lot of penalties nowadays, or the power plays kill you. So.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep.
Hey, Dave, I just want to thank you very much for taking the time for us today and coming on and chatting with us. And we've been big fans of you and the Dryden family for a long time, and it meant a lot to us. So thank you very much.
Hey, you're very welcome, guys. And thanks. Good questions and everything else. And I can tell you're passionate about hockey. So keep it going, okay?
Looking for the most beers on tap, great steaks, great staff? Head over to the John B. Pub.
We got the best beers, steaks, chicken wings, nachos in town. Come see us at the John B. Pub.
The John B. Pub, the best bar in town. Come sign up for our football pool. Say Hayes sent you.